First contact. Dr. Maya Chen stood at the edge of the excavation site, her breath creating small clouds in the frigid Antarctic air. Despite her thermal gear, the cold penetrated to her bones. But it wasn't the temperature that sent shivers down her spine. It was what lay before her. The object had been discovered 3 weeks ago by a research team drilling ice cores. It defied explanation. A perfectly smooth obsidian-like structure, 30 meters tall, buried under 2 kilometers of ice where nothing human-made should exist. Its discovery had been immediately classified, and specialists from around the world were quietly assembled. Impressive, isn't it? Dr. Kamal Nasser appeared beside her, his dark eyes reflecting the floodlights that illuminated the excavation. As the lead physicist on the project, he'd been the first expert called in. The material doesn't match anything in our periodic table. And the symbols, that's why you're here. Maya nodded, as one of the world's foremost linguists specializing in pattern recognition. She'd been pulled from her university position with little explanation. Now she understood why. The surface of the monolith was covered in intricate flowing symbols that seemed to shift subtly when viewed from different angles. They were unlike any writing system she ever encountered. "Have you tried infrared scanning?" she asked, her analytical mind already working through methodologies. "Everything. The symbols don't just sit on the surface, they somehow exist within the material itself." Kimmel handed her a tablet. "Here's what we documented so far." Maya scrolled through the images, her excitement building. This was clearly beyond human technology, which meant, "It's artificial," she said, voicing what everyone on the site had been thinking but few dared say aloud. "And not made by us." "That's the working hypothesis," Kimmel confirmed. "The question is, who made it, when, and why?" Maya looked up at the towering structure. And is it a message, a warning, or something else entirely? For 2 weeks, Maya worked tirelessly, analyzing the symbols, looking for patterns, repetitions, anything that might hint at syntax or grammar. She slept little, driven by the magnitude of what they were facing. The first confirmed alien artifact on Earth, it was the discovery of the millennium. On the 15th day at 3:17 a.m., Maya bolted upright in her small quarters at the research base. Something had been nagging at her subconscious, and suddenly it clicked. The symbols weren't static. They were responding to stimuli. Temperature, light, possibly even the presence of observers. She rushed to the excavation site, not bothering with her full thermal gear. The night team looked up in surprise as she burst in. "It's not a language," she announced breathlessly. "It's a beacon." Before anyone could respond, a low hum emanated from the monolith. The symbols began to glow with an internal blue light, pulsing in rhythmic patterns. "Everybody back," Kamal shouted, but Maya moved closer, transfixed. The air around the monolith seemed to ripple and distort. The hum grew louder, and suddenly the floodlights flickered and died, plunging the cavern into darkness. Only the blue glow of the monolith remained, casting eerie shadows across the ice. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the humming stopped. The symbols ceased glowing. The floodlights sputtered back to life. And the monolith was gone. The disappearance of the artifact threw the scientific community into chaos. Theories ranged from a sophisticated hologram to a quantum event. Military forces from several nations descended on the Antarctic site, securing it from outsiders, while scientists desperately tried to understand what had happened. Maya found herself under intense questioning. Had she activated something? What did she mean by beacon? She explained her theory that the artifact was designed to signal someone or something when discovered by intelligent life. 3 days after the disappearance, Maya sat in a hastily assembled command center near the excavation site. Officials from the UN, NASA, and various military and scientific organizations were debating next steps when all communications suddenly failed. Moments later, the ground trembled. Outside, the sky, previously clear and star-filled, darkened as something massive moved into position above them. The first images came from satellite feeds briefly restored by engineers working frantically at their stations. On screens around the room appeared a ship, if that was the right word for it. The vessel resembled a series of interconnected crystalline structures, iridescent and impossibly large, hovering 20 kilometers above Antarctica. "We're receiving a transmission," announced a communications officer, her voice strained with tension. "Audio and visual." The main screen flickered and a face appeared. At least Maya assumed it was a face. The being had features that were vaguely humanoid. 2 large, faceted eyes that shimmered like opals, a narrow ridge where a nose might be, and a mouth-like opening. Its skin was alabaster white with faint blue patterns that reminded Maya of the symbols on the monolith. "We are the Solari," the being spoke, its mouth not moving in sync with the words. "Some kind of translation technology at work. We have retrieved our Sentinel beacon. Your species has advanced enough to uncover it, but not enough to understand it. Interesting, if ultimately insignificant." The room fell silent, everyone too stunned to speak. Finally, General Ramirez, the ranking military officer, stepped forward. This is General Elena Ramirez of Earth. We mean no harm and wish to establish peaceful contact. The alien seemed to consider this, its head tilting slightly. Peaceful contact is not our concern. Your planet holds no strategic value, and your species has not yet proven itself worthy of Solari attention. We merely came to retrieve our property. Maya felt a surge of indignation. Insignificant? Unworthy? Who were these beings to judge humanity so dismissively? "May I speak?" she asked, stepping forward despite Ramirez's warning glance. The alien's gaze shifted to her, those opalescent eyes seeming to look through rather than at her. "You're the one who recognized the beacon's purpose. You may address us." "My name is Dr. Maya Chen," she began, heart pounding but voice steady. "You say we're not worthy of your attention, yet you placed a beacon on our world. You were watching us, waiting for us to reach it. That suggests we have potential you're interested in." The alien was silent for a moment. "Potential and achievement are not the same, Dr. Maya Chen. Your species has potential, yes. All sentient life does. But you remain primitive, violent, short-sighted, fractured. You destroy your own habitat. You war amongst yourselves. Your technology is crude." "We're young," Maya countered. "From an evolutionary standpoint, we've accomplished remarkable things in a short time. If you judge us solely by technology, you're missing what makes us unique." A second Solari appeared on the screen, this one with darker patterns across its skin. It spoke in a language that sounded like crystalline chimes. The first alien responded, then turned back to the humans. "My colleague Talix suggests your boldness is either admirable or foolish, perhaps both. He wishes to know what you believe makes your species worthy of Solari recognition, if not your technological achievements." Maya took a deep breath. This was humanity's first contact with an advanced alien civilization, and somehow she had become its impromptu ambassador. "Our adaptability," she said after careful consideration. "Our creativity. Our capacity for growth and change. Our ability to imagine possibilities beyond our current reality." She gestured around the room. "Look at us. We're from different nations, different cultures, speaking different languages. Yet we've come together to face the unknown. You, without falling apart. Many species claim such qualities," the Solari responded. "Few demonstrate them when truly tested." "Then test us," Maya challenged, ignoring the alarmed murmurs behind her. "If you're so advanced, surely you can devise a fair assessment of our worth." The two Solari communicated again in their musical language. The room waited in tense silence. "An interesting proposition," the first Solari finally said. "Talix will remain to conduct such an assessment. If your species proves capable, perhaps further communication will be warranted." The screen went dark. General Ramirez turned to Maya, her expression a mixture of awe and anger. "Do you realize what you've done? You've committed us to some kind of alien test without any idea what it entails." "They were about to leave, dismissing us as irrelevant," Maya replied. "At least now we have a chance to prove ourselves. Besides, they were already judging us. Now at least they'll do it openly with criteria we can address." The debate that followed was heated, with some officials arguing that Maya had overstepped catastrophically and others supporting her quick thinking. The arguments became moot, however, when a smaller crystalline vessel detached from the main ship and descended toward the base. The Solari named Talix had arrived to begin humanity's assessment. The landing pad had been hastily cleared of equipment as the alien craft. A teardrop-shaped vessel of the same iridescent material as the mothership touched down with impossible lightness. No heat, no exhaust, no sound besides a faint musical tone that reminded Maya of wind chimes. A delegation had been quickly assembled. General Ramirez, UN Secretary Joe, NASA Director Campbell, and Maya herself. Included at her own insistence, they stood in the biting cold, waiting. A seamless doorway appeared in the side of the craft, and Talix emerged. In person, the Solari was taller than Maya had expected, nearly 7 feet, with a willowy build that suggested lighter gravity origins. The patterns on its skin pulsed subtly, and Maya wondered if they served as a form of communication or emotional expression. Talix surveyed the humans, those opalescent eyes unreadable. When it spoke, the voice seemed to bypass their ears and materialize directly in their minds. "Your habitat is harsh," Talix observed, "inefficient for a species with your thermal requirements." "This is a research station in our most extreme environment," Secretary Zhao explained. "Most humans live in more temperate regions." "Adaptation versus transformation," Talix noted. "Interesting. You adapt yourselves rather than altering your environment to optimal parameters." "We do both," Maya interjected, "but we recognize the value of preserving natural environments." Talix's gaze fixed on her. "You're Maya Chen, the challenger." It wasn't a question. "You proposed a test of worth. What parameters would you suggest?" Maya hadn't expected to be asked to define the terms. She thought carefully before responding. Any fair assessment would need to consider multiple dimensions of intelligence and achievement, not just technological advancement, ethical reasoning, creative problem solving, cultural development, adaptability to unexpected challenges. Talix's head tilted, an eerily human gesture. You wish to be judged by your potential rather than your current state. I wish us to be judged fully, not dismissed based on arbitrary technological benchmarks, Maya clarified. We recognize we're not as advanced as the Solari, but advancement isn't only measured in technology. The patterns on Talix's skin flash in complex sequences. Your argument has merit. I will design trials to assess these qualities you value. Select your most capable representatives. You got one planetary rotation to prepare. With that, Talix returned to the vessel, leaving the humans to process what had just occurred. Did we just get homework from an alien? Director Campbell asked, raking the tension. Maya stared at the gleaming craft. We got a chance. Now we need to make the most of it. As they walked back to the base, General Ramirez fell and stepped beside Maya. I hope you understand what's at stake here, Dr. Chen. This isn't an academic exercise. The future of human-alien relations, maybe the future of humanity itself, could depend on these trials. Maya nodded gravely. I understand completely, General. But consider the alternative, being dismissed as unworthy without ever having the chance to show who we really are. She looked up at the massive Solari mothership still visible in the darkening sky. They think they know us. They don't, not yet. That night, as the word spread globally about the arrival of the Solari, Maya sat in her quarters reviewing everything they'd learned about their visitors. It wasn't much. Advanced technology that bordered on the magical. A hierarchical society with clear ideas about the worth of other species. A seemingly analytical approach to evaluation. Maya couldn't shake the feeling that beneath the Solari's cool dismissal lay something else, perhaps curiosity or even concern. Why place a beacon if they didn't care about who might find it? Why agree to Talix staying to conduct tests if they truly believe humans were insignificant? As she finally drifted towards sleep, Maya wondered what the Solari truly wanted and whether humanity was ready to find out. The Worth of Worlds, Part 2. The Challenge. Dawn broke over the Antarctic Research Station, bathing the makeshift assembly hall in pale golden light. Inside, 20 humans sat in nervous anticipation. Scientists, military personnel, artists, philosophers, and leaders hastily gathered from around the world. They represented humanity's best hope of proving their species' worth to the Solari. Maya fidgeted with her tablet, reviewing the profiles of everyone present. The selection process had been contentious, balancing geographic representation with raw ability. Dr. Kamal Nasser was there, along with General Ramirez. They'd also brought in Olympian and engineer Quaim Osi, renowned composer Lin Wei, ethical philosopher Dr. Sofia Mendoza, and others with exceptional qualities. Do you think they'll make us solve math problems? Whispered Eliza Harrison, a quantum computing specialist seated beside Maya. I brought a whiteboard, just in case. Before Maya could respond, the doors slid open and Talix entered. The Solari moved with fluid grace, those strange patterns shifting across alabaster skin. Behind Talix floated several crystalline objects of varying shapes, some spherical, others angular and complex. Your species values collective achievement, Talix began without preamble. Therefore, you will be assessed as a group, though individual contributions will be noted. There will be 4 trials measuring different aspects of sentient potential. The floating objects arranged themselves in the center of the room, forming a sort of 3-dimensional display. First, cognitive processing and knowledge integration. Second, creative adaptation. Third, ethical reasoning. Fourth, resilience under pressure. Talix's mental voice resonated clearly. Success in all 4 is required for Solari recognition of your species' worth. Maya straightened. The categories aligned with what she'd suggested, which was encouraging. What constitutes success? She asked. Performance that demonstrates evolutionary advancement beyond mere survival, Talix replied cryptically. I will now explain the first trial. One of the crystalline objects, a dodecahedron, floated forward and expanded, projecting a complex 3-dimensional model that filled the center of the room. It resembled a star system with multiple planets, moons, and other celestial bodies, all in motion. This is an accurate model of a system 17 of your light years from Earth, Talix explained. It faces imminent destabilization due to its primary star's irregular behavior. Your task is to predict the sequence of gravitational cascades and identify which habitable worlds could be preserved through intervention. The humans exchanged glances. This was astrophysics at a level beyond current Earth technology. There are patterns within patterns, Talix continued. You have 3 hours. With that, Talix moved to the periphery of the room, observing silently as the humans approached the model. "This is impossible," muttered one astrophysicist. "We don't have enough data on stellar dynamics at this scale." "We don't," Kamal agreed, "but the model itself contains the data. Look at the precision of the orbital mechanics." They began to work, communicating in the universal languages of mathematics and physics. Maya, whose expertise wasn't directly applicable, found herself coordinating between specialists, translating complex ideas across disciplinary boundaries. 2 hours in, frustration mounted as multiple approaches failed to yield consistent predictions. "Wait," said Quaim, who had been unusually quiet. The engineers stood up and walked around the model, viewing it from different angles. "We're thinking too linearly. The system isn't just physical, it's informational." "What do you mean?" Maya asked. "The patterns Talix mentioned, they're not just in the orbital mechanics. The model itself is constructed to show relationships." Quaim pointed to subtle color variations in the projection. "These aren't decorative. They're a multi-layered coding system." A breakthrough followed. By treating the model as both a physical simulation and an information matrix, they began to decode the system's behavior. Different specialists contributed crucial insights. The astrophysicist understood stellar mechanics, the mathematician recognized pattern sequences, the geologist identified planetary compositions from visual cues. With minutes to spare, they presented their solution. 3 planets could be preserved through precisely timed gravitational assists, but 2 would inevitably be lost. Talix approached the model, those opalescent eyes unreadable. "Explain your reasoning." Kamal stepped forward, outlining their methodology and conclusions. When he finished, an uncomfortable silence filled the room. Finally, Talix spoke. "Your approach was unexpected. You identified patterns my species would have processed differently. Yet your conclusion is essentially correct." Relief washed over the room. They had passed the first trial. "The cognitive capacity of your species exceeds our preliminary assessment," Talix acknowledged. "You will now rest before the second trial begins." As Talix departed, Maya caught up with the Solari at the door. "You seem surprised by our success," she ventured. Talix's skin patterns rippled. "Surprise implies expectation. I had no expectation, merely probability calculations based on your species' development stage. And those probabilities didn't favor us." "They did not." Talix tilted its head. "Statistical models are imperfect when applied to outliers. Perhaps your species is an outlier." It wasn't exactly a compliment, but Maya would take it. The second trial began after a brief rest period. This time, Talix presented them with what appeared to be a completely alien ecosystem contained within a spherical force field, a miniature world of bizarre flora and fauna, with environmental conditions shifting unpredictably. "Your species prides itself on adaptability," Talix stated. "Demonstrate this quality by establishing sustainable equilibrium within this biosphere. You have damaged it. Now heal it." The challenge was maddeningly complex. The ecosystem operated on principles unlike Earth's. Atmospheric compositions changed cyclically. Organisms transformed in response to certain stimuli, and energy flowed through pathways that defied conventional understanding. Every attempted solution seemed to create new problems. It was Lin Wei, the composer, who provided a crucial insight. "It's like music," she said, "studying the patterns of change. There's a rhythm, a harmony to how everything interacts. We need to work with the system's natural cadence, not impose our own." This perspective shift proved vital. Instead of trying to stabilize the ecosystem according to Earth parameters, they began to understand its inherent logic, chaotic but not random, complex but governed by discernible patterns. Working together, ecologists and artists, engineers and musicians found the solution, a carefully orchestrated sequence of interventions that would guide the system back toward its natural equilibrium. When they implemented their plan, the results were visually stunning. Colors shifted throughout the biosphere, organisms flourished, and what it seemed like chaos revealed itself as a dynamic but stable system. Talix observed without comment until the process completed. "Explain," the Solari finally requested. Dr. Sofia Mendoza stepped forward. "We recognized that our initial approach was too controlling. We were imposing our understanding of stability rather than discovering the system's own definition of balance. By observing more and interfering less, we found its natural patterns and worked with them. An approach that requires both restraint and insight," Talix noted. "Uncommon qualities in young species. The Solari's patterns pulsed. The second trial is completed successfully." As preparations began for the third trial, Maya noticed Talix studying the humans with what seemed like increased interest. She approached the Solari again. "May I ask a question about your species?" she ventured. "You may ask. I may choose not to answer. The Solari must have faced trials of your own during your evolution. What challenges shaped your species?" Talix was silent for a long moment. An insightful query. The greatest challenge for any sentient species is transcending its origins, moving beyond the evolutionary imperatives that drove its initial development. The patterns across Talix's skin shifted slowly. For the Solari, it was overcoming our inherent isolation. We evolved as solitary thinkers who found collaboration difficult. The admission surprised Maya. Yet you work together now. Your ship had many Solari aboard. Evolution can be directed once understood, Talix replied. We recognize our limitation and systematically addressed it over many generations. Maya considered this. So you engineered yourselves, culturally or perhaps biologically, to be more cooperative? Both. Necessity demanded it. Talix seemed almost wistful. The cosmos does not favor the solitary regardless of their individual capabilities. The conversation gave Maya hope. If the Solari had overcome their own evolutionary limitations, perhaps they could recognize humanity's potential to transcend theirs. The third trial proved the most challenging yet. Talix presented a series of ethical dilemmas involving fictional alien civilizations with vastly different biological and cultural parameters. The humans had to develop frameworks for mediating conflicts between these civilizations, where fundamental values and even perceptions of reality differed radically. This is impossible, General Ramirez complained after hours of frustrating debate. How can we create ethical frameworks for species we barely understand? Perhaps that's the point, Maya suggested. In a diverse galaxy, understanding can never be complete. Maybe we're being tested on how we handle that limitation. This insight redirected their approach. Rather than trying to develop perfect solutions, they'd focused on creating adaptable processes, frameworks that emphasized ongoing dialogue, mutual learning, and provisional agreements that could evolve as understanding deepened. When they presented their approach to Talix, the Solari listened silently, those opalescent eyes unreadable. Your solution lacks elegance, Talix finally said. It is messy, provisional, requiring constant adjustment. Maya's heart sank. And yet, Talix continued, it acknowledges a fundamental truth that many more advanced species overlook, that ethical understanding across profound difference is an ongoing process, not a fixed achievement. The patterns across the Solari's skin pulsed brightly. The third trial is completed successfully. Relief washed through the room, but it was short-lived. For the final trial, Talix explained it would face a simulation of an imminent extinction-level threat to Earth, one that would test the response to extreme pressure. The simulation was brutally realistic. A massive asteroid was detected on a collision course with Earth, with only 30 days to respond. The simulation accelerated time, forcing them to make decisions in minutes that represented days in the scenario. Initial attempts to deflect or destroy the asteroid failed due to its composition and trajectory. Evacuation plans couldn't possibly save everyone. Every solution they developed was partial at best, requiring impossible trade-offs. The pressure was overwhelming. Arguments broke out among team members. Some advocated for saving the scientific and cultural elite, others the random selection. Some wanted to prioritize children, others those with skills needed for rebuilding. In the midst of this chaos, Maya called for silence. We're missing something, she said firmly. Talix said this tests our resilience under pressure, but I think it's also testing whether pressure makes us abandon our values. She turned to face Talix directly. The solution isn't choosing who lives or dies. It's refusing the premise that we must sacrifice some for others. With renewed determination, they developed a multi-layered approach. A combination of deflection techniques to alter the asteroid's trajectory just enough to turn a direct hit into a grazing one, a distributed network of emergency shelters, and a rapid recovery plan for the aftermath. Their solution wouldn't prevent all suffering or death, but it rejected the idea that large-scale sacrifice was inevitable. It embodied a commitment to preserving as much life as possible while maintaining core human values. When the simulation ended, Talix approached the exhausted team. The Solari studied them silently, those strange patterns rippling across alabaster skin. You refuse to accept the parameters of the scenario, Talix observed. Many species, when faced with extinction, abandon their ethical frameworks and revert to pure survival instincts. Survival without our humanity wouldn't be survival at all, Maya replied. We'd be something else, something less. Talix was quiet for a long moment. The final trial is completed successfully, the Solari finally announced. All 4 assessments have been passed. I must now report these results to my species. As Talix turned to leave, Maya called out, What happens now? The Solari paused. Now I must reconcile your performance with our understanding of evolutionary development. Your species has demonstrated capabilities that contradict our models. Those opalescent eyes fixed on Maya. You are anomalous. After Talix departed, the humans celebrated cautiously. They had passed the Solari's tests, but what that meant for humanity's future remained unclear. Late that night, Maya stood outside, gazing at the massive Solari mothership still hovering in the sky. Something about their interactions with Talix nagged at her. The Solari seemed genuinely surprised by humanity's performance, almost conflicted about it. Penny for your thoughts. Kamal joined her, offering a steaming cup of coffee. Maya accepted it gratefully. I can't shake the feeling that there's more to these tests than Talix is telling us. The Solari don't strike me as a species that would go to all this trouble just to satisfy their curiosity about a primitive species. You think they have another agenda? Not necessarily sinister, Maya clarified, but specific, something they need from us or want to know about us. Kamal sipped his coffee thoughtfully. Well, we'll find out soon enough. Talix is returning tomorrow with their verdict. Maya nodded, but her unease remained. As a linguist, she was trained to look for what wasn't being said. The spaces between words where true meaning often hid, and everything about the Solari's behavior suggested they were holding something back. The question was, what? Like Earth's current stage of development, Maya realized aloud. Precisely, Nexar confirmed. Your planet has reached a level of energy utilization that makes it visible to them. The fracture we detected suggests they have become aware of your existence. General Ramirez straightened. Are you saying Earth is under threat from these harvesters? Not immediately, the third assessor responded. But soon. Within one of your years, they will reach your solar system. When they do, they will consume not only your civilization's energy, but the potential energy of your planet's biosphere. Earth will be left a barren husk. A horrified silence fell over humans. Why are you telling us this? Maya finally asked. If we're just observers, not full members of your confederation, why warn us at all? Nexar's patterns shifted to a slower rhythm. The situation presents both danger and opportunity. The Void Harvesters are a threat to all sentient species, including the Solari. Your world lies in their projected path, but your species has demonstrated qualities that may prove useful in addressing this threat. You want our help, Maya said, the realization dawning on her. That's why you tested us so thoroughly. You weren't just deciding if we were worthy of contact. You were assessing whether we could be useful allies against these harvesters. Nexar's patterns shifted, a simplification, but essentially correct. The Solari have encountered the Void Harvesters twice before in our history. We survived, but at great cost. Our analytical models suggest that your species' unusual cognitive patterns, particularly your lateral thinking and adaptive problem-solving, may offer approaches we have not considered. So we passed your test, and now you want us to help fight your ancient enemy? General Ramirez asked, skepticism evident in her voice. They are not merely our enemy, Talix interjected. They are an existential threat to all life forms that utilize energy, which is to say, all life forms. If they reach Earth, your species will end. This is not conjecture. It is certainty. Director Campbell stepped forward. What exactly are you proposing? An alliance, Nexar stated. Conditional and specific. We provide the technological means, you provide cognitive and strategic input. Together, we develop a method to seal the dimensional fracture before the harvesters fully emerge. The humans exchanged glances, weighing the implications. This was far beyond what any of them had anticipated when the Solari first arrived. We'll need to consult with our governments, Secretary Joe said cautiously. There is limited time, the second assessor warned. The fracture expands exponentially. We estimate 17 of your days before it reaches critical instability. Then we better get started, Maya said decisively. We can begin preliminary work while formal approvals are secured. Nexar studied her for a moment, those opalescent eyes unreadable. Very well. We will establish a joint working group immediately. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of activity. A temporary command center was established in Geneva, where human scientists, strategists, and diplomats worked alongside a delegation of Solari specialists. The knowledge gap was enormous, humans struggling to comprehend technologies and concepts thousands of years beyond their current understanding, while the Solari often found human intuitive leaps and associative thinking bewilderingly unstructured. Maya found herself in the role of translator once again, not between languages this time, but between fundamentally different modes of thought. The Solari approach problems with meticulous, hierarchical logic. Humans often make connections through analogy, metaphor, or seemingly random association. It's like they're playing chess while we're playing jazz, she remarked to Kamal after a particularly frustrating session. Both brilliant in their own way, but almost impossible to reconcile. Yet slowly, progress emerged from this cognitive friction. The Solari provided detailed data on the dimensional fracture and the physics involved, while the humans contributed unconventional approaches to sealing it. The traditional method would be to create a resonance inhibitor at the fracture point, explained Merrickx, a Solari scientist. But our models show this approach will fail due to the unusual harmonic pattern of this particular rupture. What if we don't try to close it directly? Maya suggested. What if we redirect it instead? Redirect a dimensional fracture? Merrick's patterns pulsed with what Maya had come to recognize as confusion. To where? Back on itself, Kimmel elaborated, catching Maya's train of thought, like a Mobius strip of space and time. The idea was radical, but it sparked a series of breakthroughs. By day 12, they had developed a theoretical model for a device that could manipulate the fracture's dimensional topology, essentially creating a closed loop that would prevent the harvesters from fully emerging into normal space. Building the device, however, required technology far beyond human capabilities. The Solari would handle that aspect, using their ship's manufacturing systems. On day 15, with the fracture nearing critical expansion, the device was ready for deployment. A joint team of humans and Solari would travel to the edge of the solar system aboard a Solari vessel to place it at the calculated optimal position. Maya, Kamal, and 4 others were selected to represent humanity. As they prepared to board the Solari ship, General Ramirez approached Maya. "This goes way beyond linguistics, Dr. Chen," she said, concern evident in her voice. "Are you sure you're up for this?" Maya looked toward the gleaming vessel. "No," she admitted, "but I understand how the Solari think now, at least better than most. And they still don't fully grasp how we think. We need that communication bridge out there." Ramirez nodded grimly. "Just remember, no matter how advanced they are, they came to us for help. That means something." "It means we have something they need," Maya agreed. "Something they can't replicate with all their technology, our messy, intuitive humanity." The journey to the deployment site took less than an hour, testament to Solari technology that could traverse distances that would take conventional human spacecraft months or years. The ship came to a stop that calculated coordinates, and the command center went silent as the external view screens activated. At first, there seemed to be nothing unusual, just the vast emptiness of space, stars shining in the distance. Then Talix adjusted something, and suddenly they could see it. A shimmer in the fabric of reality itself, like heat waves rising from hot pavement, but with occasional flashes of colors that had no name in human language. The dimensional fracture, Talix explained unnecessarily, already larger than anticipated. Through the distortion, Maya could see something. Not shapes exactly, but suggestions of movement, of presence. The void harvesters, pressing against the thinning boundary between dimensions. "They sense us," one of the Solari technicians reported, skin patterns flashing an alarm. Activity increasing. "Deploy the device," Nexer ordered. The device, a complex arrangement of crystalline structures surrounding a pulsing core, was launched toward the fracture. For several tense minutes, nothing seemed to happen. Then alarms blared throughout the ship. "Dimensional flux increasing," the technician reported. "The device is not initiating the topology shift." "Something's wrong with the calibration," Kimmel said, studying the data streaming across his console. "The harmonic resonance is off. We calculated it precisely," Merrick's objected. "The fracture is evolving," Maya realized. "It's changing in response to the device, adapting." This was unexpected. The Solari models hadn't predicted that the fracture could respond intelligently to their intervention. "The harvesters," Talix said grimly. "They're manipulating the fracture from their side." "We need to recalibrate," Kimmel insisted. "Quickly." But the Solari systems were already at their limits. The device had been programmed with parameters that no longer matched reality, and the ship's computers couldn't calculate new ones fast enough. "Wait," Maya said suddenly. "What if we don't need a perfect solution? What if we just need to disrupt their manipulation?" She turned to Talix. "You said the harvesters feed on energy. What if we give them too much? Overload them?" "Impossible," Merrick stated. "They can absorb virtually unlimited energy." "Not energy they can't process," Maya countered. "Like chaotic energy, unpredictable, unstructured." Quayum, who had been silent until now, leaned forward. "Like quantum fluctuations. If we could generate a field of artificial quantum uncertainty around the device, we'd create an energy pattern the harvesters couldn't digest." Kamal finished. "Brilliant." "Activate," Nexer ordered. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the fracture seemed to shudder. Colors flashed across its surface, violent, dissonant, beautiful in their chaotic intensity. The movements visible through the distortion became frantic, then erratic, then faded entirely. Slowly, the fracture began to shrink, collapsing in on itself until it vanished with a final flash of impossible colors. Silence fell over the command center. Then the Solari systems began reporting, dimensional stability restored. No trace of the harvesters detected. The immediate threat had passed. "It worked," Kimmel breathed, disbelief and elation mixing in his voice. "An unconventional solution," Nexer acknowledged, those opalescent eyes fixed on Maya. "One that no Solari would have conceived." "That's why you needed us," she replied simply. "Not for our technology or our resources, but for our different way of seeing things." Indeed, the patterns across Nexer's skin shifted to a configuration Maya hadn't seen before, slower, more harmonious. Perhaps there's something to be said for evolutionary inefficiency after all. 1 month later, Maya stood on the observation deck of a newly constructed facility on the lunar surface, Earth's first permanent extraterrestrial diplomatic outpost. Below her, the Earth hung like a blue jewel against the blackness of space, while above, the first of many Solari vessels arrived carrying delegates, scientists, and cultural attaches. The Confederation of Aligned Worlds had unanimously voted to grant Earth full membership, an unprecedented decision for a species at humanity's technological level. The successful cooperation against the Void Harvesters had demonstrated what neither humanity nor the Solari could have achieved alone. "Quite a view," said a familiar voice. Talix approached, those patterns across alabaster skin now familiar to Maya after weeks of close collaboration. "It never gets old," she agreed. "Seeing Earth from up here, it changes your perspective." "Perspective is valuable," Talix observed. "The Solari had forgotten that, I think. We became so convinced of our own evolutionary superiority that we stopped looking for alternative viewpoints." "And we thought we were alone in the universe," Maya replied. "Both of us were wrong in our own ways." Talix was silent for a moment, those opalescent eyes reflecting the Earth below. "The Council of Assessors has created a new category for your species, not technologically primitive or evolutionarily advanced, but cognitively divergent. It is a recognition that development follows multiple paths, not a single evolutionary ladder." Maya smiled. "I suppose that's a compliment." "It is an acknowledgement," Talix corrected, but the patterns across the Solari's skin suggested something like amusement. "One that has prompted much self-reflection among my people." Beyond the observation window, shuttles moved between Earth and Moon, carrying the first wave of humans accepted into Solari educational programs. Soon, humans would travel to other stars, while Solari cultural emissaries explored Earth's diverse societies. "What do you think we'll find out there?" Maya asked, gesturing toward the stars. "Now that we're part of the Confederation?" "Wonders beyond imagining," Talix replied. "Dangers we have yet to conceive. Questions we do not yet know how to ask." "Sounds like an adventure worth having." Indeed, Talix's patterns shifted to a configuration that Maya had come to associate with contemplation. The worth of worlds is not measured in their technological achievements or their military might, but in their unique perspective, what they alone can contribute to the greater understanding of existence. Maya nodded, watching as another Solari vessel appeared above the lunar horizon, its crystalline surface catching the sunlight. Earth was taking its first steps into a vast, complex galactic community, not as conquerors or subjects, but as equals with something valuable to offer. "To the worth of worlds," she said softly. The patterns across Talix's skin shifted to a harmonious rhythm that needed no translation. The bridge between their species had been built, and across it flowed the beginnings of understanding. The first tentative connection between two fundamentally different ways of perceiving the universe. It was, Maya thought, a good beginning.